led the three men to Washington, she insisted on taking full responsibility. She could easily have adopted the suggestion of the police that she was the dupe of these male so-called terrorists, and that since she had not actually shot anyone, since her .45 revolver had recoiled when she tried to shoot it and the bullet had gone into the ceiling, she insisted that she was primarily responsible because she was the leader of the band. Now this is what we know about her sense of honor and her integrity. When she was offered parole because her sentence was the shortest of the sentences, she refused parole unless the three who she said she had gotten into this whole adventure, unless they were released, she would not accept release. That's why she has become such a symbol, because of this great sense of honor, this belief that she must sustain a certain level of values even at the expense of her own suffering.
And she lost both of her children?
Yes, she lost the boy just before the trial in New York City. The priest, the day before she was to testify, a priest brought her the news in the prison that her little boy, who was 12, had drowned in Puerto Rico. And we didn't know that when we put her on the witness stand. And she began, when we asked her the preliminary questions about her pedigree, then that recalled to her the fate of her boy. And she began talking about this to the court. And the judge was astute enough to see that this was a major tragedy, and he would not let her be interrupted. And she just talked the entire day about this, what her life had been with her child, and the meaning of his loss. It had a devastating effect on the courtroom. We were in tears, of course, and the jury was in tears. The judge was very badly affected by it. But he let her talk on, and I guess, in a sense, that was very wise on his part. I suppose this made the defense less political, because it took on a new dimension because of what had happened to her and the suffering that she had undergone in the United States, in Brooklyn, which came out in her testimony.
So she talked about how...
Yes. She was saying to them how one morning she didn't have anything to eat, and she put her son on her shoulder and went into the gutter of the street to see if she could find a dime so she could buy some milk for him. And she couldn't find the dime, and she began to cry. And the little boy said to her, "Don't cry, Mommy. Someday I'll turn myself into a bird, and I will tuck you under my wing, and we'll fly far, far away." And it was at that point that the judge realized that this was not any ordinary testimony. And he signaled to the United States Attorney, whose name was Edward Lombard, to let her continue. And she did.
Was any of that mentioned in the press coverage? Like, did people have...
It was not mentioned in the press coverage because, you see, that would have obtained some sympathy for her, and they were very anxious, especially in New York City, with the largest concentration of Puerto Ricans of probably any city in the world, including San Juan, it was most important not to make those people become too excited. So the press kept that. They kept silent about it.
People have questioned your defense of this in terms of the nationalists. In a sense, your politics isn't necessarily a nationalist politics. How do you reconcile this within your own sense?
Yes, it is true that as a Marxist, I would not have the point of view of the anarchists on the way social change is progressively affected. But the nationalism of the nationalists appeals to me. In other words, I think of the black people in this country as a colonized minority, not just an oppressed minority, but a colony inside the United States. And I first came to believe in communism in 1928 because of my belief that it was for the freedom of all colonial peoples. And I felt that the black people in this country must win their freedom by ending their internal colonial status. So the nationalism of the nationalists appealed to me, that assertion of the right to independence. That, of course, was a theme that always had affected me long before I became a communist. That goes back to as a very small child. So that the theme of independence always has fascinated me from the first time I read the Declaration of Independence as a grammar school child. So that was that nationalism, the desire for independence, that made the nationalists appeal to me. And it transcended my Marxism. My attachment to both Albizu and Lolita was deeper than my attachment to Marxism.